Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join Silver Fox Advisors for our fifth virtual lunch and learn 2021. My name is Joseph Tung, and I'm honored to serve as the Education Committee with my two vice chairs, Henry Florsheim and George Connolly. Our committee consists of over 20 Fox advisors. I've been practicing attorney 20 years and am currently the director of the Houston office of Grable Martin Fulton PLC. There are a few housekeeping matters I want to first address. It's a webinar format, so you see the panelists and the slides, but you can control the viewing options by going to the menu on the top of your screen and control the screen ratio, side-by-side view, or traditional view. We will have a Q&A period at the end where you can ask questions in the chat box or the Q&A button. A brief introduction to the Silver Fox Advisors, which I am a proud member. We are a group of experienced business leaders that advises, consults, and mentors the Houston business community since 1986. Our goal is to empower business owners to become successful, and we're excited to celebrate our 35th anniversary in 2021. Our Leadership Council is made up of our President, Donnie Roberts, Vice President, Doug Thorpe, and Chairman, Bill Herman, along with 6 committees that include business engagement, education, organization outreach, operating, membership, and marketing. I'm proud to work alongside Mary Cole, Rainey Busby, Henry Florsheim, George Connolly, Rich Hall, Herb Coleman, Lane Sloan, David Newberger, Gary Henderson, and Gordon Arnold. I also want to give special thanks to Lynn Rosado, who has been the administrative rock of our organization, and I want to thank Monty Pendleton for inviting today's great speaker. Our organization also supports 20 CEO roundtables for nearly 200 CEOs across the greater Houston area. It typically meets once a month physically. During COVID, many of our roundtables pivoted into meeting virtually more frequently where it's needed. These roundtables are complimentary to join and provide valuable peer support during this critical time. We also provide these virtual lunch and learn programs and our education series webinars free of charge. The Silver Fox Advisors also provides individual advisory board and professional services on a fee basis. If you're interested in any of our offerings, you can find more information on our website, www.silverfox.org. I'd like to thank our in-kind sponsors, Griffing & Company and Pierpont. Jim Griffing and Phil Morbido have decades of experience with the Silver Fox Advisors and provide outstanding accounting and marketing services. We all encourage you to check out their websites and social media presence of these two great award-winning companies. Brings us to our speaker. It's my honor to introduce our speaker today. Bryan Kelley serves as the CEO of the Prison Entrepreneurship Program, an innovative nonprofit organization that unites business executives and inmates through entrepreneurial passion and servant leadership to transform lives, restore families, and rebuild communities. He wholeheartedly believes that everyone, even felons, are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Bryan guides the way for society's scourge to find a purpose-filled life down a productive path through new visions, healthy relationships, and marketplace disciplines. Bryan has a psychology degree from Sam Houston State University. He is a business owner, entrepreneur, advisor, mentor, investor, and has served on numerous governing boards. He's an active member of the Met Church in Houston, Texas. He is also a speaker and prison reform advocate, giving voice to our marginalized multitudes who wear the scarlet letter of ex-felon. Bryan takes to heart the Great Commission and longs to be a part of the solution rather than the problem. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Bryan Kelley.
Joseph, thank you so much for that introduction. Wow, it seemed like I was outside looking in thinking, I can't wait to hear this guy myself. Hopefully you guys felt the same. I have a slide deck that I'd like to share with you. I know many of the Foxes have, hold on, let me make sure I'm on the right one. Many of the Foxes have heard a pitch from PEP in the past, and I hope to add to what you've heard in the past. It's been quite some time since we presented, and there's been a lot that has transpired. In the meantime, PEP has done some significant pivoting during this COVID pandemic, and I'm really excited about what's to come. But I thought I would just share a little bit about what we do and get that kind of level set, and then we'll talk about some things to come. And I think it will really excite this group. PEP, Prison Entrepreneurship Program, is a proven solution for startup lives. We've got a great friend at the American Enterprise Institute, the ex-executive director, Arthur Brooks, who said that the secret to success in life is not a startup business, but a startup life. And you know, I love the way he puts that, because that's exactly what we're doing. We are using entrepreneurship as a vehicle to transform lives, but it's really about a startup life, not necessarily a startup business. Let's dive right into the problem to begin with. Mass incarceration in this country. As you guys probably know, the United States incarcerates more people per capita than anybody in the world. We've got over 2 million people incarcerated at any given time. A lot of those need to be incarcerated. I understand that there are some people we need to, protect ourselves from. I think there are others, though, that we're incarcerated because we're mad at them. And a lot of those are getting out, and it's difficult to re-enter society. There are so many obstacles in place. The Arnold Ventures has done a study on that and found that there are over 44,000 barriers to re-entry, including licensing challenges and things like that. And here's the deal. 650,000 people are getting out of prison every year in this country. Let me bring it home a little bit more. In Texas, about 45,000 people are getting out of prison every year. And what they encounter is an overwhelming task of reentry. Most are not equipped. Most of them are just going to fall by the wayside. They're not up to meeting that challenge. And we'll dive more into that in just a minute. And I think sometimes the very best we can hope for is that they're going to be living underneath our bridge and standing on a street corner with a sign that says anything helps. And if that's the best, well, what's the worst? So I want to give you a solid understanding of what the guys encounter when they get out of prison. This is a picture from Huntsville. That's actually the Walls unit in downtown Huntsville, Texas. And this is a group of guys getting out of prison. They have only the clothes that they're wearing. And that was just given to them. The prison system gives that to them out of a thrift store in town. They are carrying, in this picture, what amounts to their whole life's accumulation, everything they own. When they get out that day, you can almost see it on their face. If you can kind of zoom into this, is there's bewilderment, there's fear, there's trepidation. You would think this would be the most joyous day that they've encountered in years and or decades, but there's bewilderment. They know that life has changed. Technology has changed. The pace of life is vastly different than what they encounter on the inside. Their decision maker has a trophy, and now all of a sudden they're going to have to make decisions at a rapid fire pace. For example, they're going to have to get their documentation squared away. They're going to need their birth certificate, social security card, an ID or driver's license. If they have a driver's license, they're going to need insurance. They're going to need to get health care taken care of, drug and alcohol classes. They're going to need access to public transportation, maps, and a lot of the guys, have never encountered that before. So it's brand new. This is a maze that they've got to go through. And couple that with re-engagement with family, friends, children, a job search, housing search, it is overwhelming. And I want to go back and stress the decision maker part of that. For years, sometimes decades, every day a guy goes to the chow hall to get a tray full of food that he doesn't even make a decision on. He is given what to eat. He's told where to sit and what to drink. He doesn't even choose his utensils. He gets one utensil, and that's a spork. Now, contrast that with getting out and having to make all of your mealtime decisions. Oh, well, let me factor this in too. When a guy gets out of prison in Texas, he gets $50 and a bus ticket. Now, that $50 is designed to get him to go to parole, where he'll get another $50. But he's got to go through this labyrinth of obstacles and tasks to get up to speed and get employable, get a job, and get his life in order. And I want to put this in perspective. He's got about 3 days worth of food, $100 just assuming $10 per meal, that's about three days plus a breakfast. He's got that much amount of time to get his life in order. How difficult is that? I mean, that's the reality of it. So I want to bring it home to you. What if I asked you to start over in a different city? Maybe we'll call it Bogota or Rio de Janeiro or Munich. What if I gave you 3 days rations? You're in an unfamiliar territory, a different culture. Maybe you don't even speak some of the language or understand it. You're required to do a gauntlet of tasks all over the city. You've got one set of clothes, the clothes that you're wearing only. You've got no positive support. You've got an ancient job record. You can't even really demonstrate, your ability to go to work for somebody. Let me ask you, gut check time. Seriously, could you make it? If I dropped you off at the bus station in Bogota or Munich and you had nobody, could you make it? That's what our guys are encountering every day. That's the enormity of the reentry problem. So what happens? Well, this is an economic drain on the state. Our prison system just in Texas has a $3.5 billion budget annually. We're spending a lot of money around this. And then think about the burden on the SNAP program, CHIP, and just the services, the social services out there. I want you to also think about how it reverberates out, like the generations that come behind. Did you know that children of at least one incarcerated parents have a 70% chance of following suit and going to prison as well? It becomes a generational cycle that's hard to beat. Homelessness is a great outcome of prison and reentry, as is unemployment. Even prior to COVID, unemployment for an ex-felon, 27%. You know what? I mentioned this earlier. If our released participants or if our released felons are standing on the street corner with a sign that says anything helps, guess what? That doesn't help. I want to talk to you about help that really works. But let me give you a couple of examples before we even start out. This is a picture of James. James is a graduate of our program. He was right here in Houston. He was actually homeless for about 2 years, standing on a street corner. He was one of those guys that had that sign, anything helps. He was staying at a homeless shelter here in town, alienated from his family, addicted, and stuck in that addiction. His kids actually called him one day and said, "Dad, we want to come and talk to you." So he told the executive director of the homeless shelter, he said, "My kids are coming to get me. I'm going home." But his kids were coming to tell him, "Dad, you're an embarrassment to us. We're ashamed of you. Don't reach out to us anymore. We don't want to have anything to do with you." James spiraled out of control and ended up in prison where he encountered PEP. And he became just a wonderful servant leader for us on the inside. He graduated the program. He got out, was super solid citizen on the outside. He became a house leader for us in our transitional house in Dallas. Went to work for DHL, the packaging and express mail delivery service. They loved him. He very quickly moved to manager and then district manager. And he's now going back to college, earning a degree, and is reunited with his kids. I think you can see the difference in this picture, the difference that PEP makes. If you don't believe that story, how about Benjamin? Benjamin was a derelict, drug addict. He said there was not an illegal drug out there that he wasn't addicted to. He had fathered 2 kids, although he was never a father. And he went to prison, and he self-professed rebel without a clue. He encountered PEP, and we taught him not only business acumen, but leadership qualities. We do a character assessment, and that really gravitated with him. Like James, he got out. He became a leader for us, a house leader, personal trainer, and he was trying to re-engage with his kiddos and their mother. She would have nothing to do with it. She was still stuck in her addiction. And then one day he got a call. She had got busted for her addiction, was going to prison, and overnight, with a phone call, he became dad. And so he moved out of the transitional house, moved to East Texas, took on a role and responsibility of a father, provider, and guess what? He was ready for that. He has since remarried and had another kid. He's a manager for a metal commercial builder. in metal buildings, and God, he's just doing great. And you can see it in this picture. You can see the difference. And so let me just highlight a little bit about what we believe in, why this works so much. We mentioned our mission earlier. We unite business executives with inmates through entrepreneurial passion and servant leadership to transform lives, restore families, and rebuild communities. That's what we do. That's what we believe in. We are at that sweet spot, that intersection of economic mobility and justice reform. If you watch the news every night, you'll see that this is the type of solution that the country is clamoring for. And both sides are yelling and wanting something like this, and we've had it all along. We are in that sweet spot. Our results are that we are ushering people into a solid middle-class startup life of second chance citizens who are impacting our communities. We are that solution. That's our space. That's what we do. We were doing this since before it was cool. So let me give you an overview of how we do this. This is a comprehensive graphic of what we do. You'll see in this picture, the barbed wire in the middle represents prison. On the left-hand side is what we do inside of prison. We do a really dramatic character assessment and development. And when we dive into that, I'm going to tell you what, so many people think that the solution to this problem is job skills, and job skills are great. But guess what? A lot of people go to prison with job skills. Nobody goes to prison with great character. And so that's where we start. That's the foundation that we build. And we can build a house on that, but if you don't have that character, it doesn't matter what you build on top of it. The house is doomed to fall. You're building it on quicksand. After that, we do a deep dive in entrepreneurship and just teaching business basics. But really, I'll tell you, this is a proving ground for that character. We're going to put them in the crucible of a college level curriculum, pushing them beyond boundaries they thought they were able to complete, and just show them that they can do much more than they thought they could while demonstrating that character that we taught them. And then the third piece of that is just servant leadership. Once they graduate, they effectively shepherd the guys coming behind them, teaching them leadership skills, management skills, and really fortifying all those great qualities that we gave them. And guess what? That's just inside the fence. Once somebody is released, we recognize there needs to be reentry support. So we've got a reentry team that will walk with them through those most dangerous times, those first few days, weeks, and months out, to help them get that documentation, to get their food, clothes, employment squared away. We have employment assistance. We have employment partners who love hiring our guys. They see them as a ready, willing, and able, trained, and prepared labor pool that can go to work. And we've got a continuing education program that we call eSchool for Entrepreneurship School. But basically, we're teaching life skills to get them on solid footing in their first few days on the outside. And we've got housing available for those that need it, and quite a few do. That is a component that we need to always have, because not everybody has a solid environment to go home to, and they need to have that, especially in those first few months when they get out. And I'll tell you, we're really focusing now on our business accelerator on the outside. We've had over 500 businesses started by our graduates. And I think if we get much more intentional about doing that, we can up that ante quite a bit. Hey, we are deep, high touch, long lasting. We are instilling discipline and character. These are marketplace disciplines that we're giving to guys, and it's a proven solution. And so if you don't believe so, if some of you are data focused, well, let me bring you some data. Any prison program, ministry, mission, the gold standard of measurement of its effectiveness is recidivism. How quickly you're going back to prison or not going back to prison. So the gold standard is a 3-year recidivism rate, and that's how everybody's measured for effectiveness. Now, nationally, about 50 to 60% of the people released from prison every year, remember I told you it was 650,000, about 50 to 60% are going back to prison within 3 years. Texas does a little bit better job. You'll see that's the yellow line up above. They're somewhere between 30, 25%, something like that, and their recidivism rate. At any given time, we're about a third of that. Our average over our 17-year history has been 8%. And I'll tell you, if guys stick with us for just 6 months post-release, it's 4%. We are 96% effective at keeping a man out of prison. That's amazing. That is unheard of. We are the nation's preeminent program in doing that. And so many people have said, you know, your numbers, your outcomes are outrageous. You must be cherry picking. Oh, but that's not the case. We are one of the only people that have an effective control group. That's the green line that you'll see on this. And so those are almost 1,800 people that we have selected for our program and accepted them into the program, but for administrative reasons, they have not been transferred to our unit to start the program. So accepted, not 1 day in the program, typically because they're going home too early. And you can see that their recidivism rate hovers around the state average, demonstrating that it's not selection bias, the reason for our great outcomes, but it's the program that's making the difference. The chart on the right-hand side will show you the racial makeup of our population, both in prison and in our program. The bar on the left is the general prison population. You can see roughly it's about a third black, white, and brown inside of Texas prisons, and almost an exact mirror image of who we have in our program. By any way you slice the data, we are an exact replica of who's in prison, whether that's educational level, age, crime, just about. The only group that we don't take in our program are sex offenders. And I'll tell you, truthfully, it's not because we don't think we can work with them. They typically have programming that's going to supersede ours on their way out the door. Our program is designed to be in the last 3 years of their incarceration to really impact what's going to come next. And so our sex offenders are going to have other programming that's going to supersede. So therefore, we can't work with them. But otherwise, we are just a cross-section of who's in prison in Texas, and we're making a dramatic impact. Let me show you some more of those impacts. The graph on the left is our wage scales post-release. And so we chart how quickly somebody's getting a job. For example, for 10 years straight, we've had 100% employment within 90 days. Unheard of in this space. Actually, our first job is averaging about 22 or 23 days at a starting wage of about $12.63. So 160% of minimum wage. Our guys, and we track them, we track their FICO scores, we track how quickly they're getting a checking account, savings account, how often they're going to payday loans. We track just about everything, how quickly they're engaging with family, with other social groups like churches. This translates into, at the 3-year mark, our guys are making almost $24 an hour. They're starting to get into that realm of a livable wage where they can live independently and not have to worry about taking from others or supplementing that. They can take care of themselves because of that increased earning potential. That translates well into stable housing. That's the graph on the right-hand side. You can see the leftmost bar. It shows that about 6% of the guys when they get out of prison own their own home. Most are dependent upon transitional houses or family members to really give them a place to lay their head. But because of our increased earning potential at the 3-year mark, this is an incredible number. 42% own their own home. These next two boxes are renting a home and renting an apartment. You can see that well over 90% have stable, independent housing because of their increased earning potential and goes through our program. It's amazing. This is just, it's fiscally responsible for us to do what we do, and we're changing lives. And I always give the rough and tumble numbers of, if it costs us $30,000 a year to incarcerate an individual, and we get him out, keep him out, and get him a job at just the $30,000 level, that's a $60,000 swing in our tax base. It's fiscally responsible for us to do this. So it's amazing what we're doing. Who's doing this? Well, let me show you. We'll take a look here at my leadership team. That's me on the left with some of my leaders over there. Amazing in that number is 4 of the 5 have done prison time. And so we know and understand what's palatable, what's needed, what the guys can handle. And there is great knowledge of our population base on the inside and what's needed. The right-hand side is our governing board. 10 successful businessmen and women who have bought and sold businesses their whole life. They bring great business acumen, great networks, great heart to serve and make a difference. And you couple that together with the prison knowledge, and amazing things happen. That's one of the ingredients to our special sauce of how we're so effective. And just so you know, I am one of those people who is a graduate of our program. I have probably the equivalent of a couple of PhDs inside of prison. I went to prison in 1992 from the fruit of a godless life. I had killed a man in a dope deal that went horribly wrong. Did almost 22 years in prison. When I went to prison, I was a terrible employee, a terrible son, a terrible citizen. And I encountered God Almighty and then met PEP. And I'll tell you what, I've been surrounded by some people that have greatly shaped my life ever since. And that has ushered me into a place where I can run an organization with 30 employees, almost 3,000 graduates, about 3,000 active volunteers, growing leaps and bounds, looking forward to scalability. It's an amazing opportunity. I want you to know this. I'm not an anomaly. There are many men just like me. There are many men that are going to do better than me. And you have a chance to kind of graft in and help them do that. So don't just take my word for it. I want to also show you some reputable third-party validation that's went on. Several people have looked at our program and said, your numbers are amazing. We need to double check and make sure this is true. Baylor did an in-depth study with us in 2013 and found at that time our recidivism rate was about 7% on average. We greatly outperformed 8 other rehabilitation programs in the state. They recognized the great job we were doing. Rice has done a study with us. American Enterprise Institute recognized the great job we're doing. Most recently, the Initiative for Competitive Intercity, a nonprofit out of Harvard that was founded by a Harvard Business School professor, Michael Porter, did a deep dive study on the economic impact of PEP in Texas. They found that we made $122 million impact on the state in reduced incarceration costs and capital that is streaming into our communities because of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. It's an amazing, like I said, it's a fiscally responsible thing that we're doing. Almost at 800% ROI, return on investment. If we're making $122 million impact on the state of Texas, at that time, we had a budget of about 2.7. And what an amazing impact. And, the core recommendation of that report from ICIC was that we continue to fortify what we're doing in building entrepreneurship, both inside and outside. So guess what? That is exactly what we've done. We are really looking to maximize our impact on what we're calling PEP Ventures, and that is the post-release business support. So let me give you a quick visual of that. If you're taking a look at this graph, on the left-hand side, the 3 most pieces are what we do on the inside: character development, business acumen, and then servant leadership of giving back. Once guys get out in the reentry portion, we help them get on stable footing. And then we're going to do a deeper dive in more education with our eSchool 200 series that teaches even deeper business skills. For those who want to become an entrepreneur, there's going to be incubation, mentorship, and now access to capital through a bank that we have started called Entre Capital, and then business acceleration. There's another path that the guys can take, which is intrapreneurship, but I suspected that you guys would want to hear some more today about the entrepreneurship part. So let's talk about that a little bit more. 2 main priorities along this time is energize our volunteer base, people just like you who are mission critical to what we do. We want to build a volunteer and mentor platform. Think about this as a digital community to bring our guys together with our volunteers, with that business acumen, and really shape and help them not only envision a new life and what that might look like, but how to get there. And then build a volunteer center right here in Houston, which will be a place for people and ideas to collide and have amazing things generate out of that. We are looking to build the nation's preeminent second chance incubator and accelerator right here in Houston, Texas. We're going to provide support services like back office accounting, counseling, capital through our bank, Entre Capital, and then as well as showcase events like Shark Tank. I want you to take a look at this, especially this is kind of a juxtaposition of what we do on the inside and then what we're going to do on the outside. We bring in amazing volunteers inside of prison to help shape the ideas and formulate new possibilities for our guys in one-on-one conversations, instruction, advisement. Inside, we do mock Shark Tanks and to give the guys practice around that. And now we are recently just secured a lease in the East End Maker Hub over off Navigation Boulevard. We are going to build that nation's preeminent second chance incubator and accelerator. It's going to be a place where we can have our volunteers come collide with our guys post-release and really help them launch their business, launch a new trajectory in their life. It'll be that volunteer center. It'll be a great place for our guys to learn new skills and chart a new course. I mentioned earlier the mentor and volunteer platform. Think about that as a digital community where our volunteers and our guys can get together and really shape things. We recognize we can't always get together face to face, especially in this environment with COVID, but what a great way, what a platform to build so that we can bring together people from remote areas in Texas or all over the country to get together and really hope and shape ideas. Will hone and shape ideas of our guys because they are so creative and they look forward to a new life. Let's help them do that. So one of the things we really want to do in this entrepreneurship development post-release and in our incubator and our accelerator is increase deal flow. I already mentioned that just organically, we've had over 500 businesses started by our graduates. And I want to get more intentional about cultivating that. And so take a look at just some pictures here of some advisement that's going on, some people who are just helping to our graduate entrepreneurs think through the obstacles that they're encountering as business owners. We need to build more infrastructure around that. We need a ventures manager. That's somebody we're looking to hire right now. We're looking at the space I mentioned at the East End Maker Hub, which will be a great incubation spot for our businesses, providing bookkeeping services, tool rental, tool storage, truck storage, things like that. We also want to really amp up our acceleration. And so we just want our established businesses, the guys who get on a solid platform, to be able to take that to brand new heights. And it takes great thinkers like you to help them get to that point. And this is going to be a tremendous economic impact. Let me show you a couple of great pictures of what's going on with our banking. I mentioned that earlier, that we recognize it's difficult for our guys to obtain capital as ex-felons. Number one, there are an ex-felon. Number two, startup capital is a difficult asset class for any bank anyway. But when you throw in the fact that they're ex-felons who probably have no or poor banking history, that's just a difficult asset class. Nobody wants to loan to that. So our guys are running into obstacles. And so we decided we were just going to launch a second chance lending arm called Entre Capital. Steve and Roger in these two pictures are a couple of our founders of that. They are seasoned banking guys who know well credit underwriting, and they have just brought great know-how in helping us think through and launch this Second Chance Bank. It's been amazing. Early returns on that are incredible. We've loaned out about $242,000 to 6 different entrepreneurs. All of the loans are performing incredibly because what comes with that money is wraparound support, including business advisement. Matter of fact, let me show you some of our entrepreneurs. These are the 6 loans that we gave out, and I'll just pick a couple of them to tell you the stories about it. Let me go in the middle. Roderick Hearn, because he's right here in Houston. Roderick started Iron Rod Fences several years ago. He was in business for about 3 years, did about $250K in revenue each year. He came to us and told us he wanted to borrow 14 grand so that he could buy a used forklift. He thought if he could move more metal, that would really make a difference. And so we did a deep dive, looked at his character, looked at his business and his finances. It was pretty solid, but we recognized he could use a little help. So we loaned him that money for the forklift, but we also gave him a business advisor who did a deep dive with him and made him really scrub and think about his business, who his customers were, where his biggest margins were, what his priorities were. You know what resulted out of that is here we are a little over a year later, and he's looking at doing $1.5 million, a 6X increase. I promise you, it's not because of that forklift, it's because of the wraparound support services, because of that advisor that we put in his life to help him think through that. That's what comes with Entre Capital. You don't just get funds, you get wraparound support that comes with it. Ben Vines, the guy on the left, he started a stump grinding business in Dallas. He is doing exceptionally well. He's got more business he can shake a stick at. And it's largely because his business plan advisor knows that industry well, connected him to the largest arborist in North Texas. And so Ben is partnering with them. He's removing stumps for their customers. He has got just an incredible opportunity to grow his business into multiple trucks and multiple grinders. And so we're working with him currently on that, and it's an incredible opportunity. Each one of these guys are stories just like that. They're amazing. And that's what we want to do. We're not measuring our success by loan repayment. We're measuring our success by impacting the community, impacting lives. And so I just wanted you to see this. I could go on all of these stories, but these are real men, real businesses, been given real money, and there's real transformation. That's what's going on. We're creating this deal pipeline, and we want to do that more and more and more. How about a quick visual of exactly what we're doing with Entre Capital? So we've done kind of a proof of concept. We pulled in some investors into Entre Capital, and we loaned out all that money. But as it comes back in, it's going back to the investor, which means Entre is not up and running. We need to get some capital for them to have on the balance sheet so they can be in business year round. That's what we're preparing for. And so they can do the credit transformation, the mentoring, the life transformation, and the support services. And this can be wraparound support for our entrepreneurs. And we're looking for some investors in that. What's that look like? Well, let me give you a graph of this. And so on the right-hand side, this is PEP. We're doing the character assessment and development and bringing guys to second chance businesses. Entre Capital is bringing the capital and the mentors into it. We're coming together to just impact the community. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for some investors at about $20,000 a pop. Matter of fact, we've got an event coming up that we can showcase this at. But at $20,000 a pop, 15 would go into impact investment. You get about a 5 to 7% return, modest return rate. But 5,000 of that would go towards founders' equity. We want to recognize you as a founder of Entre Capital, but make sure that it can have that sustained capital to make some loans, even when we're not in an event cycle. And then once we do that, once we obtain our CDFI, we're going to be looking for some banking capital to go with that. And so we'll have a capital stack of founder equity, junior debt, and then banking debt. And so I hope to have about $1.5 million available through Entre Capital by year's end. This fall, we're looking to have another showcase event where we highlight and showcase our graduate entrepreneurs. We did it about 1.5 years ago, November 19, at the George Bush Center in Dallas. Had some amazing sharks on stage with our guys, Doug Deason, Mark Holden, a rapper from the East Coast, Big Burks, and Professor Harford, or Dr. Harford from Reclamier, who does He's in the oh my gosh, he's in the. I'll come back to that. But I want to showcase number one, the picture on top, Ruben. Oh my gosh, Ruben won the crowd that night. He won $100,000. He has an amazing oil field servicing business. Just a great story. Been out of prison about 8 or 9 years, started his own business, just wowed the crowd. We're going to do that again in Houston in September. We're going to have another Shark Tank showcase right here in this city. We'd love to have you at that. We're going to do it at Houston Country Club. We've already secured some sharks. David Weekley, Bob Harvey, Russell Yubera from Gringos are all agreed to be a shark at our event. We're going to showcase 3 or 4 more of our graduate entrepreneurs who will be pitching for right around $250,000 in growth capital. It's going to be an amazing event. We'd love to have you there if you're interested in being a part of that. If you're interested in being a sponsor, you want to bring some friends and show them, man, please contact me. We would love to have some folks be a part of that. We're also going to have a watching party at the Cannon here in town. Super excited and partner with them in any way we can. And so I wanted to cap this off with one of your very own silver foxes, Monty Pendleton. You know, Monty's been into prison more times than anybody in our program, any of our volunteers, well over 200 times. And you can see the smile and the life and the vitality it brings to him. It's amazing. He is one of our stalwarts. He's an amazing difference maker. And so I'll just cap this off, just reminding you who I am. Bryan Kelley, I'm the CEO of PEP. There is my contact information. If you want to get more involved, I would love to talk to you about that. We'd love to have you be a part of that pitch event that's coming September 23rd. We call that the Barbed Wire to Business Accelerator event. We're going to showcase some of our guys. We'd love to show you what second chance entrepreneurs look like, because I'm going to tell you what, they are difference makers. And I think I want to go ahead and stop there and see if we have any questions. I'd love to answer anything that we have. Joseph, I'll hand the mic over to you right now. Let you MC this out. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks, Bryan. That was really impressive. That's quite a lot of work you've done since we last worked with you. Some people know, the Silver Foxes have been involved with the prison entrepreneurship program for quite some time, and so a lot of the foxes, you'll see pictures along our website where we do kind of the mock-up where we're in jail, because we go into the prisons, and that's why he said that Monty's been in prison several hundred times. What he means is we go into the prison, not that we've served 200 sentences, but that we've gone into the prisons hundreds of times to support the program, and also to be of support. It's not just Monty, but I think Gordon's been there. Keith O'Connell is a former Fox, and the list goes on and on and on. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and it is quite impressive how you expanded the entrepreneurship side. Sorry, I just self-muted. I also think it's important that the focus wasn't just on education, because I think a lot of people think it's just about getting skills. That the leadership side, the character side is so important. There are 2 questions. Well, there's a ton of questions that are coming through, so I'll get to those in a second. There are a couple preset questions. Some were based on education, some were based on character. And I have a couple questions first. For me, at least, and for a lot of folks, I think, getting past the initial stigma and the perception of is difficult for a lot of folks. And I think it is impressive the way that some folks, I noticed that you buried your story in the middle. And I think, and some people take a different approach, right? They put the story up front. Some people bury it in the middle. Some people put it last. Some people don't mention it at all. And I wanted to get your personal feel on how you think that, because there's obviously no right answer to how to address not just individual, but society, politics, stigma, and perception of working with ex-felons. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is you kept referring to our guys. And so the first question in the Q&A box is from Doug Thorpe, one of our Silver Foxes. He says the female population in prisons has, you knew it was coming, right? The female population has increased quite significantly. And so wanted to know if PEP or any other program that you're aware of is addressing that. So I'll give you those two to start with. There's a much more coming.
I'm going to go ahead and start with the second one first, Joseph. Thank you for that. We recognize that there is also need on the ladies' side. The stats around that is 92% of prisoners are male, 8% are women, but that is growing. It's still by far the smaller number. And so, but we recognize that the ladies need the same sort of opportunities. And so we helped launch a pilot program a few years ago at a women's unit here in Texas. We did a couple of cohorts, and we found out that the entrepreneurship portion of our program translates remarkably. The ladies really gravitated to it, and they did really well at that. But I hope that you got, and what I talked about earlier is the biggest part of what we do inside a prison is character assessment and development. And so we've got to build that, that platform to build upon. The program that we had put together previously was really geared towards men, and it didn't translate well. So what we needed was a group of women to dive into that and really understand the challenges that the women inside a prison are facing. That wasn't my team. And so we helped put together a team for the ladies to get together and do that. I've handed them a complete curriculum, done some training for their team, given some of our volunteers and board members as well, and helped them get started on their own. And so there now is another kind of a sister program called Empowering Women in Prison. And so they've started that. It's kind of a sister program. They're up and running, but they're still in their infancy. Recognize the need for that, but I realized my team wasn't the best fit, but encourage them to do all that they can. So there is that availability out there. Going back to the stigma, it is real and it's comprehensive. And I think the biggest thing we can do to help tip the scales along those lines is continue to churn out people who graft into our community and demonstrate to everybody that, you know what, we can make a difference out here. I'm going to tell you, Joseph, there's a new slogan that I've kind of taken and run with, and that's broken crayons, still color. And I think that just fits what we're doing really well. Broken crayons, broken pencils, broken paintbrushes can still create great beauty. That happens in our program all the time. So the more times we get guys getting out of prison, not just not going back to prison, but getting out and really impacting our community, starting jobs, starting businesses, creating jobs, grafting into our community, going to churches around here, making social impact, the more we're going to tip those scales. And everybody's going to realize that, you know what, I've met the enemy and they are us. And it really is. We're around ex-felons all the time. There are 45,000 people getting out of prison just in the state of Texas every year. They're around us everywhere. They are us.
I appreciate that. The next set of questions, one is kind of a blended question of, do you address the homeless population? And I think the answer is obviously, of course, but specifically, do you do any kind of outreach to the homeless population, and what hurdles do you think are present in the homeless population? And then the follow-up was what are your three or however many big asks you have of the group today?
Sure. So on the homeless part, we indirectly affect that in that we're decreasing the number who are going to become homeless because we're keeping them on their feet and showing them how to increase their earning potential and have stable housing. And it's a group of people who would normally be headed in that direction. So we're helping to ebb that from that direction. Do we work directly with the homeless here in town? Yeah. We're working with the guys coming out of prison. That is where we started. That's the roots of our program, and that's the direction, or that's where we're at right now. But I'll tell you, we're looking at scalability and ways to really impact the community. And I mentioned earlier, I want to build the nation's preeminent second chance incubator and accelerator. Now, for now, that means second chance people coming out of prison. But I envision a day when we get the automation of this up and running, that we can include anybody who needs a second chance, whether that's homeless, coming out of addiction, or just a career reboot. And I think we can open that up later on. We're not to that point yet. Love to do that down the road. And
Now, I was kind of curious because you mentioned addiction a couple of times, and I was curious about the mental health and physical health aspects, how that dovetails with the character building, because a lot of times those are contributing factors. To what extent do you have to address those both inside the fence and outside the fence?
Yeah, and I know for the homeless population, mental health is a big issue, and that's a hurdle and a challenge to overcome. We don't dive into that directly with our guys, and typically they cannot be transferred to our program if they have any mental health issues inside of prison. So that is not a problem we are equipped to address. We pull in and collaborate with other people to do that. And so, we've got to go back to our core competencies, and that's not one of the things that we deal with. And so we're just going to have to rely on other people to help with that part of it.
I've got two easy logistical questions from Fox's. Question number one, how many prisons do you currently operate in? Do you have any future expansion plans in or out of the state? Question number two is, where do your operating funds come from?
Sure. So we currently we have two full campuses in Texas, one just north of Houston and Cleveland, and one just south of Dallas in Venus, Texas. But we recruit from all over the state. We recruit from over 80 different prisons in Texas, and the prison system will then take the guys to one of our campuses to go through the Folsom program. So it's a little bit misnomer that we only operate in two. We pull from everywhere. We would like to expand here in Texas, and we're also putting together a replication plan, not only for expansion in Texas, but replication in other states. There are several states that are clamoring for our program and our outcomes, and would love to have that. And we're getting to that point where we're putting together a box set that we could give to Oklahoma, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, because a lot of those states are just clamoring for us to come there. And it's time for us to be able to provide our program and our outcomes for those states as well. How do we exist financially? We exist fully on private donations, foundations, and individuals. A little bit of corporate dollars, a little bit of church dollars, but it's mainly foundations and individuals. So we're always looking for donors to our program, but especially if you'd be interested in helping us think through and fund our scalability process right now that we're going through. We hope to get to that point by year's end. We'd love to have somebody come in. Let me go back to also the the Entre capital part of that, our second chance friendly lending arm. We are looking for investors in that. Who can be founder investors of Second Chance Banking. We are the only one in the country that are currently doing that right now. And I think that's a chance for us to be the leader and really fortify that, I've said this a couple of times, to be the nation's preeminent second chance incubator accelerator, which includes funding. And we'd love to have you be a part of that if you want to. I would, going back to the question of, what are the asks? I would love for you to come to our Barbed Wire to Business Accelerator in September. If you would like to do that, let me know. If you would like to be an investor in that, in Entre Capital, and also have a say-so around where those dollars are going, we would love to have you come in as a founder on that. And typically, we're starting out about a $20,000 investment per person. And if you would like to dive in with me and help think through some of these things so that we can get more scalable and provide our program and our outcomes to more people, I would love to have thought partners come in and do that with me and my team.
But you don't need any more people coming to the prisons with you?
Right now, because of COVID, those numbers are greatly reduced. And we expect back up. But it's going to be a much more strategic and targeted skill set that we're going to take inside. Most of our face-to-face from here on out is going to happen post-release.
I know. I was just kidding.
We do want to get some people back inside because I'll tell you what, that's an experience that I think you saw it on Monty's face earlier on that picture. It is an experience not to be missed.
So I think I don't see any more questions. So if you don't have any closing remarks, I've got a few closing remarks. Again, thank you so much for for your time and your enthusiasm, your energy in explaining something that we've been a big part of. We're actually going to start meeting back in person next month. Our next speaker is going to be in person at the Houston Racquet Club on August 26th. As always, on a Thursday, we'll be at noon. It will be our U.S. Congresswoman, Lizzie Fletcher. If you need more information, you can get it at our website, www.silverfox.org. And again, thank you for supporting our organization. And please come out to our website or come out and see us in person next month.